Sometimes the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
And once again, welcome to the back of the range. I am your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 210. So I'm heading out of town for a few days to play some golf instead of covering golf. Yes, even I take the occasional golf vacation from time to time. This time I'm heading to Kiawah Island for a few days. Going to be a lot of fun. 16 of us on this trip. Good God. Lots of interesting characters. I will definitely post a few pictures, of course. I can't not bring a camera at this point to a place like Kiawah, but before leaving, I absolutely had to get this episode out to you all before hitting the road. My guest on this episode is Emilia Migliaccio. She just returned back home from Wales after representing the United States of America at the Curtis Cup. And yes, Emilia, along with Rachel Heck, Rachel Keane, Brooke Matthews, Rose Zhang, the entire squad, they pulled off a come-from-behind victory and brought that cup home. We spoke about her amazing week in the UK, her start in the game, her All-American career at Wake Forest, and her summer internship at Golf Channel. A lot of great stories in this episode. This episode was so much fun to record. You know, the goal here at the back of the range is just to have it sound like two people are just sitting around telling golf stories and sharing some laughs. That is exactly what you'll hear during this episode. I'm not going to waste any more time. Don't forget, follow along on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Every episode is available at thebackoftherange.com. But for now, I'm heading to Kiawah for some golf. But before I hit the road, let's welcome my guest on this very special episode. Emilia, you're at the back of the range. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm not suffering any jet lags, so I'm kind of ahead of the game here. You are back from Wales after a victorious U.S. Curtis Cup experience, and I think we were just talking about it. It's a little bit easier to get the clock figured out and get your sleeping schedule better on the way back from the UK as opposed to on the way over. Correct?
Yes, I am kind of an early bird in general. I actually got up at 5:30 today to go to the gym, so I'm pretty energized right now.
You don't need to make the host feel like crap. What are we doing here? I was up by 8. That's a victory for me. What are we doing here? All right, so up at 5:30 in the gym, ready to go, ready to recap your experience at the Curtis Cup. But what was it like heading over? Because I've been to the UK more than once. And boy, that trip over, and then you have to stay awake. Is that how it was when you went over there?
Yeah, it was. We were definitely struggling when we were off the plane, and we had, I think, maybe a 5.5 hour bus ride after we landed.
Oh.
So it was. So we honestly, we were like talking for about 2 hours, just about random stuff, and then we all just crashed. So definitely a little tired, but we had the privilege of the USGA having us fly in business class, so we did have not as much of an excuse to be that tired because we were able to lay down and actually go to sleep on the plane. So it was definitely a lot better than it could have been. So I was definitely very happy and just excited to be there. It was my first time in the UK, so it was definitely an awesome experience.
I'll probably ask you other questions about your U.S. Curtis Cup teammates, and some will be just real. Well, they won't be embarrassing, but that'll be kind of fun and unique. Who? Let's see if we can throw someone under the bus here. Who is the grumpiest on the U.S. Curtis Cup team without sleep? Who is struggling the most on the way over?
That is interesting. Honestly, it was funny. So we walked Conway Mountain. I think it was maybe 2 days after we arrived, and Rose was just not having it. Now, she's not grumpy. She's not grumpy by any means, right. But she was like, guys, we were like, we're going to walk Conway Mountain. And she was kind of quiet the whole time.
Just like, I'm not feeling this. Is not feeling this.
She's like, I want to rest, and but she, I think it was worth it when we got to the top, and it was beautiful, but it was definitely, we were like, come on, Rose, it's going to be okay.
That's awesome. Well, we definitely need to get back into Curtis Cup at a later time in this episode, but definitely don't want to skip over a couple things. Just want to make sure we can introduce you to the listeners. I know a lot of everyone's been seeing you, whether it's covering golf for Golf Channel or playing golf at the U.S. Women's Am or at the Curtis Cup, but kind of a rite of passage. Need to kind of learn a little bit about how you actually got into the game. So, before you were an All-American at Wake Forest and a 3-time Rolex Junior All-American, there's a lot of stuff we have to, just the stats are kind of overwhelming, but how did you get introduced to the game of golf?
Yeah, my mom, she played at the University of Arizona. So she grew up in Sweden and played golf. She was actually teammates with Annika Sorenstam.
I've heard of her.
Yeah. Yeah, really? Yeah. Before Annika turned pro. But just really, my mom has been such a great role model for me. When I was always into sports. So I played soccer and golf, and I wanted to be a professional soccer player when I played soccer. And when I played golf, I wanted to be a professional golfer. And my mom, she was kind of really helped guide me. And okay, if you want to be really good at something, you need to have a lot of discipline and you need to practice. And so she would always remind me, Emilia, if this is something you want to do, which is, it's okay if you don't, but if you want to be really good at something, you need to work really hard and train a lot to do well. And there was a moment when my first tournament was when I was 9, but at age 12, I had to choose between soccer and golf. I was kind of at that stage where going to focus in on one sport, and I loved soccer, but golf was something that I was always itching to get better at. So, and my mom played soccer as well. And what she told me was, Emilia, if you want to, play really good, do really good in a sport, soccer can get kind of political on who's the best player, and it can be harder to define like how good you are. But in golf, if you shoot a lower score than everybody else, you're the best on that in that field. And she said that's what really motivated her to pursue golf, because there was no politics involved. She could just play better than everybody else, and then she would do well. And that was kind of the deciding factor. I was like, okay. I also ended up getting cut from the middle school team. So, so that also kind of, which I was still a little salty about, by the way, because I'm a good goalie.
Okay. All right. We're not gonna go into that part of the episode. Don't worry. We're gonna move past it and get off this as quickly as possible.
But yeah. So, and that year, when I was 12, that was the first year I shot under par. I qualified for the Big I at Pine Needles.
Yeah.
And so I kind of really just elevated my game, and it was really exciting. And here we are.
Yeah, that's kind of the writing on the wall. And I guess it's kind of interesting to get that advice and that kind of counsel at such a young age, but it's completely spot on. Golf is a meritocracy. You shoot the numbers, then that's all you need to look at. I'm just curious, when did you kind of start picking up on the fact that you were a little bit more serious than maybe your contemporaries, your peers in junior golf or high school? Because it's one thing to put the work in, but everyone has a different assessment or different idea of hard work. You mentioned Rose, Rose Zhang, who's right now the number 1 ranked amateur in the world, and it's through it's pretty well known that she'll try and make 104 footers after every single practice session. So she works hard as well. When did you start realizing, maybe at 12, 13, 14, that my hard work is a little bit more serious than maybe other people's hard work?
I think I started realizing that when I started competing on the AJGA at a high level. I was playing the invitationals. I was doing well, and just kind of compared to at home, it was really nice to be in an environment where everyone had very similar goals and aspirations and work ethic. And it was really exciting to be in that space. Like I remember we would have 12 p.m. practice round, and there would be, 10 of us there at 8 a.m. already, practicing.
Oh,
And
wow.
I mean, we were just, I mean, it was cool. And then, after, people would have putting contests, but
Sure.
everyone was working. Everyone was always working on their game. And I think I'm someone that tends to look at how well everyone else is doing and not acknowledge the success that I have had. So
Okay.
that's something where my mom was always reminding me, hey, like, you're doing really well. Look at this. But I also, as a kid, I wasn't that focused on ranking. So, for example, when I first qualified for the Junior Ryder Cup, it was the first time representing the U.S. I didn't even really know that, like, I had to play well in the Junior PGA to qualify for the tournament.
Okay.
My mom was always just kind of like, just play your game, just focus on yourself, and things will fall into place. And so that's kind of always been my mindset. And then as you get better, you start to realize your success. And that's
Right.
when you have to, you use that as like continued motivation versus trying to hold on to stuff.
Okay, because that's really important, because it seems like every step of the way you've qualified for different, teams or tournaments or championships, and there's always, whether one tournament's dangling the carrot, but or however you want to look at it, there's always something next that's coming up, where if you play well here, it takes you to the next step. So I guess you just already answered the question. You just are super hyper focused on the task at hand and not thinking or not even acknowledging what could come next.
Yeah, and I think, you hear Nelly Korda, she's number 1 in the world right now, and if you ask her about her mindset, I guarantee you she'll tell you one shot at a time. And it's kind of a statement that so many athletes say, and it can be kind of hard to comprehend. But in reality, it's something it's so hard to do because there's so many things being thrown at you. You have, rankings, there's team events, there's tournaments that you need to play well in.
Right.
And it's really difficult to block all of that out because there's so much outside noise kind of coming at you. And so it's kind of a daily process on how do I focus on that task at hand. I think that's something, as I'm always trying to ask other players questions, and I think something that I've talked with Rose Zhang about, and something that I've interviewed Nelly Korda on is they, instead of setting goals like I want to be the best player in the world, they'll set goals, I need to make 100 4-footers, and they really focus on just the mini goals every day. And if you can't achieve that mini goal, then you break it down even smaller. And I think setting really, really small goals every day is something that I've learned really helps you in the long run.
Well, I'm really glad you shared that, because we have a lot of juniors that listen to this podcast, and obviously parents of juniors that listen, and always try and grab something out of a guest that can be passed on to listeners. And that's great, because whether you're trying to perhaps qualify for maybe the starting 5 on your collegiate team, or you're trying to get into your club championship, if you get too focused on the result, you can't focus on what needs to be done to actually get there.
Mm-hmm,
So.
Exactly. And I am someone who's naturally a dreamer. Like, I get excited about,
Sure,
the success that could happen. So I think for some people it comes easier to focus on the small goals, but then for other people, they have to, emphasize it even more, because it's so easy to kind of look at what could happen and the success that could happen. And then you kind of get a little too wrapped up in it.
Okay, interesting. All right, I'm learning a lot here. I'm trying to think on the flyer. So, so you're talking about being a dreamer, and you're talking about what could happen down the line, and obviously you have this great career at Wake. 2019 ACC title for the team, and obviously for yourself as well. And I know that you made this decision recently not to turn professional, and this is pretty recent. I mean, this is 2020. This is before you went and played in the Augusta National Women's Amateur. And I know that this is something that was, I've read articles, done my research. This is something that you wanted to be in your future. You wanted to be the number 1 player on the LPGA Tour. And the journey that you kind of started in the decision-making process of not turning professional, and what it did for your game, I think is fascinating. So can you maybe walk me through and listeners through a little bit about maybe the time that you started leaning towards maybe this isn't what I want to do right now? Maybe I don't want to play professional, right out of college.
During the time of COVID, I played in the North and South. It was the first tournament back, and I played really well. I birdied the last 3 holes to shoot even par, and on Pinehurst number 2, that is like the best win you can get. But I didn't feel the satisfaction and like the triumphing feeling that I would normally do, and it was kind of interesting.
Right.
And I was talking with my mom about it, and in January, I struggled a little bit in college and my final semester at Wake, and I just started thinking a lot about, what I wanted to do in life. And I don't know, I mean, something when I was just recently talking about different goals and dreams you have, and I think it's also very, very okay to have goals change and have dreams change. That doesn't mean you give up on a dream. It just means that you have a different perspective on your life.
Right.
And I think one thing for me was, my goal was never to be a professional golfer. Like, that was never the dream. So if that was the dream, then, you play for a couple of years, you see how it goes. If it doesn't go well, you're proud of the years you played. You can say you played professionally.
Right.
But for me, I wanted to be the best player in the world. And when I realized that, that kind of everyday grind was not something that was actually worth it for me anymore, that
Right.
I could do something else that impacted a lot of people and was more fulfilling and didn't require so much emotional strain, which, any professional athlete experiences just a lot of ups and downs because it's such a difficult and lonely kind of journey.
I was just going to say it seems like, well, for that life, it has to be all about you, and it has to be all about your play and what needs to be done for you to succeed and be the number one player. And obviously don't know you extremely well, but just the limited time we've spoken, you seem very cognizant of others and doing what's best for others and being around other people. So being the number one ranked player, that seems like the complete opposite of that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I kind of realized that, and that's kind of what, okay, I don't think I want to do this at all. And I'm pretty confident in that.
Right.
Because I don't want, because when I feel like just my experience kind of observing other people and being very close to that space, you have this team that's around you and they're amazing and they're so dedicated to do everything they can to like help you be your best.
Right.
And then when things aren't going well, everybody's scrambling, everyone's trying to do everything they can, like extra, massage therapy or training or different electrolytes, like, I mean, all, different practice.
Right.
And for me, that's like, you don't need to do that much. Like, I'm not like that important, guys. Like, please, like, don't. So I think just having so much attention on me and having everything on me, it was definitely, it wasn't something that I realized was as attractive as I thought it once was. And I'm just in a really good place about it. And it's really exciting for me to have competed in some tournaments after deciding not to turn pro and to get up on the first tee and be really excited and just really having fun. And if a result doesn't go the way I want, you kind of just, okay, that's fine. And that's sports. And then you shake it off and, you go play 9 holes with your family.
Yeah. And, and by the way, speaking of your family, you spoke about your mom. Tell me a good story about your dad.
Yeah. So his parents are Italian, and they moved to Venezuela before he was born. So he was born and raised in Venezuela, in Caracas. And he went to Boston University for undergrad, and then he went to Arizona for grad school. So that's where he met my mom. So I've been blessed with just a lot of different cultural backgrounds, which I feel like has really shaped me, the person I am today. I love learning about other people's lives and perspectives and how other people live. And so very, very blessed. Everyone on my family is finance or engineering. So I feel like I'm good at math, but don't quite interested in that area. So my sister's in civil engineering. My dad, I think he did electrical engineering. My mom was in finance, and I am communication and writing and English. So
I was going to say you're kind of the hippie that likes to write and
Yep.
Okay, all right, perfect.
I fully embrace that role too.
There you go. Okay. So, I'm really glad that you talked about that, and then of course you're talking about this. Okay, I'm going to stay amateur, and it sounds like it literally frees you up going right into the Augusta National Women's Amateur, and of all places to go where you want to have your head clear and also be at peace with your game. That's the place. You have mom on the bag. I know that was a really special experience for you both because probably, unless there's the unique championship or tournament down the road, might have been the last time that she was caddying for you. I've asked different players, amateurs that have played at Augusta National that have stayed in the Crow's Nest. Okay, if you're in the Crow's Nest, as you know, like I talked to Scott Harvey and I've talked to Stuart Hagestad and all these great experiences at Augusta National. Forget about the golf course, what was maybe one of the experiences that you realized that being an amateur at Augusta National, once in a lifetime, that most people are never going to experience? Forget about the golf course. What was something off the golf course that you enjoyed about Augusta National?
I think it was just the way that we were treated. Like, we were treated so well and so welcomed and so honored. And that was just really special, especially because women at one point were not welcomed at all at Augusta National and are still, that's still a kind of a work in progress.
Yep.
And so I think that's something that everyone who played in that tournament, regardless of making the cut or not, really cherished. Like, we all felt like queens. Like, I remember getting my makeup done before an interview and just like the speeches that were given, being at the chairman's dinner. I sat with Chairman Ridley, and it was just the environment and just how welcomed and awesome, like how we were treated was definitely like what really sticks out to me aside from the golf.
Now, are you a golf history nut? Some players like for me, I could probably tell you who won every single Masters since like '84. But I know that some of my friends or people that I play golf with, or even people that I've had as guests on the podcast, they're not really into golf history that much. Are you a little bit of a golf history nut? Did that kind of add to the experience, or no?
No, not quite. But if you ask my assistant coach, Ryan Potter, you guys can probably talk for hours because he knows everything. But yeah, please don't question me on who won when, because I will probably embarrass myself.
No, won't do that to you. We're all about making friends here at the back of the range. Won't do that to you. I wanted to, you mentioned this was your first time traveling to the UK for Curtis Cup, but definitely not the first time that you have represented the United States. And I don't want to embarrass you by throwing out some stats here, but you are aware that you're the only player to play in 4 Palmer Cups. Is that news to you, or have you figured that one out yet?
No, yes. I was at my 4th Palmer Cup. I was Roy and Amy Saunders. They kind of acknowledged me, and they actually sent me like the coolest gift ever. They had this beautiful like umbrella plaque that had my name on it and the dates that I played.
Wow.
But they also sent me a replica of Arnold Palmer's putter that he won like 40 PGA tournaments with. So that was like the coolest gift I've probably ever given. So yeah, I definitely I knew that and was very humbled to receive that gift from them.
So how do what gets you so excited for team competitions? Obviously, great program at Wake, and then we'll talk a little bit about the Pan Am Games in a second, but obviously Palmer Cup. I mean, representing your country, obviously it's a thrill. You've done it so many times, but what is it about the team environment that perhaps you enjoy over, like we just talked about? You really, the professional career isn't something you want to chase, but I'm guessing any sort of a team environment, that's where you thrive.
Yeah, definitely. And especially representing the U.S., I'm a very patriotic person. I love my country. And so I think just that is something that I really hold on to and what just makes me so excited to compete. And also in college, like I have just loved my time at Wake Forest and loved my team. And I would do anything to honor Wake Forest and the legacy it holds, the golf legacy it holds. So I'm just like a big Wake Forest nut. And even when I played like on AJGA, they have the Wyndham Cup where like the East and the West. I freaking channeled that. Like I loved it. Like I was so proud to be on the East team.
So you just got just like the East, like face tattoos and just wearing blue. East was blue, wasn't it?
Red.
Oh, red.
Yes.
Okay, East was red. Okay.
Don't get it mixed up now.
I'm just doing the best I can here. Yeah. So so channeling that, and that just led into Wake. That led into everything.
Yes. And I also I love. I'm someone that always is trying to include people and make people feel welcomed.
Right.
So, and being on a team event, you can really step up and do that and get people to come together. So that's also another reason why I just really enjoy team events.
So speaking of that, so Pan Am Games, it's so funny because 2019 Pan Am Games in Peru. I've had Brandon Wu on the podcast. I've had Stu on the podcast, and I just remember so much about that time because Brandon, after the four of you, or I'm sorry, it was you and as well as Rose Zhang. So the four of you representing the United States. You win the team gold. You win the individual gold. But what I remember so much about that is Brandon and Stu basically taking a red eye from Peru to Pinehurst to play in the USAM. And then I guess Brandon gets medalist on basically no sleep.
Yes.
And so what do you remember about that experience? The four of you, and I actually talked to Stu yesterday because I said, hey, I have Migliaccio on the podcast tomorrow. And was it just the four of you? How it's kind of a unique thing. You obviously have the USGA staff with you at the Curtis Cup. Was it just the four of you guys just turned loose in Peru? How did that championship go?
Yeah. So Brandon had one of his friends caddy for him, and then I had my mom. So I guess maybe the six of us, and we had two USGA staff.
Okay.
So yeah, 8 of us, I guess, that were kind of traveling around together.
Right.
But I mean, I think the coolest part was just it was the Olympics of the Americas. So there was all these other different sports here. It was so interesting to see how the pole vaulters from track traveled because they have these like enormous poles that are just not like suited for travel, but have to get places with
right.
them.
Right. Yeah, you don't put that in the overhead compartment. That doesn't work.
No. So I think just like being around so many other sports, and there was this massive dining hall where you could see every country and all the teams, and a lot of people exchanged pins.
Sure.
So that was really cool. And we stayed in sort of they had Olympic villages built for us.
Sure.
So that kind of whole experience was absolutely incredible, and one that I don't think any of us have really experienced before.
All right, let's see if you can answer this question honestly. Being in that dining hall, seeing pole vaulters and track and field stars, and did you four feel like true athletes that week?
I think so. I mean, Stu, he's pretty confident in
yes. And I always love getting a guest to just turn over and give Stu some shit. That's perfect. Love it.
I think we were all pretty confident. No one made a comment about us being on a golf team. So
okay.
But I think we would have defended ourselves pretty well.
Good. Golfers are athletes too. Good.
Yes. Yeah. Someone can try a counter argument, but I think I'll beat them there.
Okay, good. Well, you've talked a lot about covering and speaking with professional golfers, and whether it's Rose or Nelly Corda. I guess we need to kind of discuss the summer internship you just finished. You had a busy summer. I mean, you had to play a little bit of golf, but you have this incredible internship at the Golf Channel. So you're obviously a communications major. You're chasing after a master's now at Wake. Very much into writing and journalism. And it looked like I looked at your work, and it's fantastic, but it also looked like you filed an article with golfchannel.com just about every day this summer, from everything from Kevin Kisner making a run at the Ryder Cup to the Olympics to, your teammate Rachel. I mean, just you're talking about, covering everything. Talk to me how this happened.
Yeah. So when I decided that I wasn't going to turn pro, I was like, okay, well, I want to get an internship or some kind of job. And I spoke with Ryan Lavner. I spoke with many people, but Ryan Lavner I knew pretty well from college, and he's interviewed me a couple times and did a really cool story on me when I was at Wake. And so he kind of connected me, told me what Golf Channel was about and what I could be doing. And he asked me what I wanted to do. And I said I wanted to write or do some broadcasting and a couple weeks later, I got in contact with Mercer Baggs, who's now my boss. And he actually there was a full-time desk position open, but since I was going to grad school, I was like, well, I can't do full-time, but can I still work for you guys? And I'm like a freelance or something and
right.
Have it during the summer. And he was able to work that out and has been absolutely incredible. I mean, he was the one who was getting me these gigs in broadcasting, even though I'm, employed as a writer.
Sure.
But he was just incredible at just kind of knowing what I wanted to do and where my goals were and just kind of giving me all the opportunities possible. And it was just, I just had a blast. I've always loved writing, and to be able to pick players' brains, some that I knew and some that I've watched for years, is really special for me.
That's pretty cool to just be able to say, hi, this is Emilia Migliaccio calling from the Golf Channel, and I'd have some questions to ask you. Do you have some free time? As you know, right now, I guess the story that is resonating, or it's resonating through the world of professional golf, is the Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka. I guess we're going to call it a saga right now. I'm not going to ask you about that because I think everyone has an opinion on that, and it's kind of it's kind of exhausting to be. Perfectly honest with you, I'm just exhausted by the entire thing. So instead of focusing on that, I would love to ask you about. Can you maybe briefly tell me about one story that really resonated with you this summer that obviously is not not as big as the whole Bryson and Brooks debacle. What's one story that really resonated with you?
Yeah, I think during the KPMG, I wrote on Lizette Salas and Nelly Korda, obviously winning. But that was the week that Lizette opened up about her mental health.
Sure.
And she was really vulnerable. And I was really looking forward to, when I wrote this story, to really honor her and honor her journey and just kind of paint it in just a really respectful but informative way to the audience. And that was an article that I was really, really proud of. As well as when Nelly won, I wrote a longer article on her, and Nelly talked a lot about just how much her family has meant to her. And she got a little emotional when she spoke about her sister, Jessica. And I remember she was like, Jess is just the best big sister ever. And it was such a sweet moment that someone as a kid says about their big sister. And, I think, it's very easy, as an athlete and being interviewed a lot, you have these ritual answers, but to be able to be in a space where you had these two athletes kind of giving just raw answers about how they were feeling, and being able to write on that was something that was really cool for me to do.
Well, the other thing I would imagine is just you're getting to tell the stories on the women's game that obviously, they're fantastic stories, but as well as anyone that it's just, like I said, it's not getting, even amateur golf, forget about men's or women's, just amateur golf itself is just not getting the attention that we'd all, I think you and I would both like it to get a lot more, instead of focusing on, look, they're going to pick the Ryder Cup team. We know it's going to be a handful of guys that are going to get on the team, but that's not really a story. We can just look down the list and kind of figure it out. But there's some really good stories on the amateur side, especially on the women's side, that we need to get them out a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's been really cool when NCAA has been broadcasted Curtis Cup. I have all these members at my club, McGregor Downs, and they're like, oh my gosh, like I had so much fun watching it. And it's like, people didn't know how exciting amateur golf was until it started being broadcasted and written about. And I think that's what's really exciting to see it start to propel.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I spent a month on the road. I was at the U.S. Junior, Western Am, U.S. Women's Am, and U.S. Amateur at Oakmont, and 4 great weeks, 4 great experiences. But I think the most fun I had, and the most fun I think that I saw on the players' faces, was at Westchester. Was at the Women's Am. I had a blast, and I guess maybe I don't want to say that the players didn't take it seriously, because obviously you did. But it looked like everyone was just having a little bit more fun.
Yeah, and I think everyone's just, especially in the amateur golf, at the end of the day, we're trying to play the best golf we can, but we're happy for our friends.
Right.
We root for them and we support them. And, I lost to Brooke Say, who's a good friend of mine, in the round of 32, and I was rooting for her, to go all the way. And, that's just kind of how it works. And I think that's the beauty of amateur golf.
And I think you had to interview her after, didn't you? So you lost in the round of 32 to Brooke, and then right after that morning match, they throw a headset on you and a communications belt and say, go out there and go to work. And then I think you interview her after she wins. Am I remembering this correctly?
Yes, I remember Brant Packer was like, all right, you want to interview Brooke? And I was like, yeah, I guess, like, as a joke.
Nice.
He's always trying to, pick on me. But yeah, no, it was super fun. And I mean, she's just such a sweet girl. So it feels, just so funny to have this like professional gear on when I feel like I'm talking to one of my friends,
right,
and I have to give them like a slightly formal interview about how their round went.
Yeah. What's been the reaction of your friends when they see you, when they see what you've done, not only just with your writing, but also with your on-course reporting? I mean, that just sounds like such a cool thing. And also, I don't think anyone understands how many people are talking in your ear while you're out there walking on the golf course.
Oh no, yeah, it's like 4 or 5 different voices, but yeah, I think I've been getting a lot of good feedback. I think they get really excited when they see me. It's probably relaxes them a little bit that they see like a face they know and someone that they know is just going to ask them, normal questions and not, throw them off, which most writers don't throw people off, but
right,
some people can get anxious about, interview questions. But I remember when I interviewed Mega Gane during the US Open, she was like, oh, this is like so cool because I've like looked up to you and now you're interviewing me. And then we got to, become really close friends at the Curtis Cup.
Sure.
So it's just a lot of like full circle moments. I feel like I'm so excited to be able to interview my peers when they get onto the LPGA and just kind of see their growth.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about Curtis Cup and then let you go. I'm sure there's some sort of a class involving a subject that I would not have any idea how to get through that class. So let's talk a little bit about this Curtis Cup. Obviously, you get selected right after the U.S. Women's Amateur. Pretty sure you felt. I think you would have hopefully agree that you felt pretty safe that you were going to get picked. I believe you were about the 4th ranked American in Wagger, right behind Rose and Rachel Heck and Allison Corpus. So I'm guessing you felt pretty safe, but still getting the tap on the shoulder, you can't be too comfortable until the USGA taps you on the shoulder and said, would you like to go represent the United States? When did you find out, and how did that selection, kind of that looming selection, affect you at the Women's Am? Did you pretty much stay in the present the way you spoke about earlier, or was it on your mind while you were there at Westchester?
I mean, yeah, I had to, just focus on the tournament and not think too much about the Curtis Cup. I think what helped is I was like, I'm not going to expect anything because, I haven't played a lot. And I know if I play well in the USAM that I will probably get picked. But
right.
I think I did a really good job that week of having no expectations, which some weeks can be harder than others. Some weeks you have really, really high expectations and they're on your mind all the time. And some weeks you're able to kind of let that go. I was like, I'm just going to play and have fun with my boyfriend who's on the bag. And that's kind of what we did. And it was funny when Jensen won and she was on the green and I was headed back to the compound. We were zooming back in our golf buggy, and then I get a call from Julia Pine, and she's like, "Hey, you got to come back to the green." And I was like, "Okay," like have all my headset on and everything, so I have to take it off. And I had a feeling at that moment that I was like, "Hey," because I feel like the Curtis Cup selection had to be picked within the next 24 hours. I felt like it was going to be really soon when I was going to get the call.
Right.
And so I came up to the green, and she handed me her phone, and I got a call asking if I want to be on the Curtis Cup. And there's a picture of me like jumping up in the air.
Really?
Like I'm not like quite jumped. I'm like on the downfall of my jump, I guess. But I was just like so excited. And yeah, just it was just such a good feeling, because when you have such a good amateur career and to be able to kind of cap it off with a Curtis Cup, there's nothing like more special than that.
Now, one picture that I saw, you mentioned these pictures. I saw a picture of you and Rachel Keane and Jensen Castle, who we will talk about in a minute. But I saw the three of you walking off a tee box during a practice round, and the cameraman caught you in the middle of a laughing fit. And I'm sure that was not the first time you shared a laugh with one of your teammates over there. I know you can't tell me every joke and every story that was shared in the team room or on bus rides, but who is the funniest person on the U.S. Curtis Cup team?
100% Megagane. She cracks everybody up. She's really good at impersonations.
Oh.
I can't tell you, though, who she was impersonating.
Okay.
It wasn't you. Don't worry.
Oh, I would hope not. But it sounds like this is someone that needs to be on the back of the range. I had no idea.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
100%. You need to get her here.
Okay.
She's so good at impersonations, but she's just super funny, like always keeping it light. And I love how confident she is in herself and her game, and how welcoming she is and inclusive she is with everyone. But yeah, she was just such a great person to have on that team. And it definitely, always making us laugh. And we had our own inside jokes that we bonded over. And so it was awesome.
What experience that you had in Wales that Rose and Rachel Heck weren't able to enjoy themselves is, and I know this kind of sounds a little strange, but you actually got to sit out of a session. You actually got to maybe get in the golf cart, put an earpiece in, which of course is no odd experience for you, but you get to throw an earpiece in, ride around, and just kind of spectate. You had Friday afternoon off. I know, fierce competitor, you always want to play, but what memories do you have from that where did you actually get to take it in and maybe enjoy the fact that, oh my gosh, look what's really happening. This is the environment. I wanted to be here this whole time.
Yeah, I definitely did feel that way. I was, Sarah came over to me and she was like, it was like a tough decision. Like she was, trying, I was like, oh my God, don't worry. I'm kind of tired right now.
There you go.
Glad,
yeah.
Like you're sitting me out. And like, I was excited because, I was ready to, just cheer on my teammates.
Right.
And, cause I also really believe that's a big part in the people, who are cheering for you. That's like, does influence how you play. So I was, any match that was like close or like down, I was there like trying to pump them up. And it was so funny. The audience in Wales, they were super respectful of both sides, and they got a little loud towards the end, but they clap and stuff, but there was no like wild stuff. And then and then we have me, so one of our teammates makes a putt and I'm like, yeah, let's go, like I'm like screaming. and then you see these like it's always like three like people between the age of like 65 and 75 that like all turn around at the same time, like wondering why I'm yelling so loud.
These rowdy Americans.
Yep. But I enjoyed every minute of just being on the sidelines. I think there's also just such value in that.
So it would only be natural, obviously I was up at, I don't know why I'm bragging to you that I was up at 5 a.m. watching you guys play, because that sounds like you get up at 5 every day to go to the gym. But moving on, I'm up and I'm watching this, and obviously that first day, GB9 gets out to this really big lead, and then the following day you'd chip away at it, pull even, and then really just completely dominate the singles. But I was just curious. I guess it'd only be natural to feel that you'd be the favorites heading in if you just looked at Wagger and just looked at chalk straight across the board and looked at your own team's accomplishments. But I mean, for everything that the U.S. team has done, the women of GB&I, they're right there with you. I mean, Hannah Darling won St. Rule, Louise Duncan won the women's AM, Charlotte Heath, Australian. I mean, their entire, and Lauren Walsh, you're one of your teammates at Wake. You know her game really well. What was maybe your mindset heading in that maybe the team had, or maybe how did Captain Ingram prepare everyone? I don't want to get too into the weeds and too granular, but what was kind of the mindset heading in?
I think it was really about camaraderie.
Okay.
Sarah was saying, like, you guys know your game, your strengths, you're great players, and it's just a matter of going out and performing, or not even performing, but just, giving it your all, and whatever happens, we're proud of you regardless. I think something that was really important for all of us to hear when we were down was how proud both Sarah and our team manager, Laura, were proud of us. They said, doesn't matter, like, because I'm obviously pretty bummed. I lost both my matches and really wanted to get some points on the board. Right. And they were like, Emilia, we're so proud of you. Like, regardless, like, always know that. And I think that was like really important for us to hear, because our worth was not defined in our game, and our performance. So I think that also really allowed us to channel some great energy going into the next couple days.
Well, and I remember watching too. I saw a lot of missed fairways from both teams, and I also saw a lot of putts that, first of all, those greens must have been 8 or 9 on stem, because I saw just a lot of putts. Just I mean, thankfully everyone was pretty aggressive on the greens, because I saw everything just kind of racing by 3 or 4 feet. What was the adjustment to Conway? What was the adjustment to that golf course?
I think the biggest adjustment were the tee shots.
Okay.
I think because the fairways are really narrow, but they also run. So when Rachel Keene and I played in foursomes the first day, what we adjusted the second day was we did not hit driver a lot. Like, I hit my 3 hybrid, which probably carries 215 and runs out 240.
Right.
And it was like, I'm going to hit this. I feel more comfortable with hitting a hybrid, hitting a 5 wood. Rachel also hits it so far. So she was out driving Charlotte Heath with her 5 wood by like 15 yards. So, so we just realized that, like, we don't need driver in the bag in every hole. And then we were in the fairway pretty much every time. So I think that was kind of the biggest adjustment, since it wasn't too windy. The conditions were like set up perfect for us. So there was not much like sideways wind and rain that we had to like also deal with, which really makes like links golf hard.
Yeah. I remember playing over at the UK, and it was almost, when you look at each hole, I guess how I did it, I said, okay, there's the gorse through the fairway. That's at about 280. So I would just work my way back from there. I'd say I can't go 280. I know I'm going to get 30 yards of roll possibly, so I can't land at 250. I need to land at 230 and you just work your way back.
Exactly.
Okay. You mentioned briefly the U.S. Women's Amateur Champion Jensen Castle. Her trip, I spoke with her before she left for Wales. She was a guest on the podcast, and she just briefly talked about the whirlwind of going from a women's am, and then all of a sudden, hey, by the way, you're going to Wales. And obviously she was not on the radar of making that team. She made the team by winning the women's amateur. She's got a hell of a personality. She had to be a lot of fun in the team room as well.
Yes, no, she was. She's incredible. Like, her personality, her game. No, we had an intense foosball match before singles.
Why are we now just only getting to this now? Okay, so did she break the table?
Well, you brought up Jensen, so...
Okay, I love it. Go ahead.
So, it was Captain, Sarah Ingram, and myself, and then Jensen Castle, and might have been Rachel Heck. I actually can't quite remember who Jensen played with. I was clearly very focused on my own game at this time.
Sounds like it.
But we were so we were down 4-0, the scoreboard is to 10, and we were like, okay, so we were getting some points. All of a sudden it's tied up, and it ended up being like back and forth. So it was 9-9.
Okay.
And we got the winning point, and then Jensen, they all like fell back on the floor, like, no.
Oh gosh.
So it was so funny. Like before singles, we were just over here like screaming in our team room.
And that's how you get prepared to go out and gosh, I mean, this single session, just everything kind of clicked, and Jensen had this incredible comeback to scratch out a half point in her match as well. I remember a little bit of the celebration in 2019 for the men at the Walker Cup. Unfortunately, due to COVID, it didn't seem to have the same kind of feeling. But I'm guessing that the celebration and the party on the way back was something you'll remember for quite some time as well.
Yes, I definitely will. I actually think so. Our caddies, they came to our team room, some of our caddies, because they're around our age, to kind of celebrate and toast. And
sure.
But the best part was when we were kind of playing ping pong, chatting, playing music, and then the GB&I players storm into our team room. Hannah Darling has the aux in her hand, or like a speaker in her hand, and so that was the moment where it got like super exciting and more wild, I guess.
So both teams celebrating together.
Yes, we did, and I think that was honestly the best part, because
that's so cool.
Yeah, and it was just so fun, and we went down to their team room for a bit. They had like a bunch of chocolate, and I remember Annabelle saying, she's like, yeah, the chocolate in America, it's just so terrible. And I was like, okay.
All right.
So she introduced me to some incredible European chocolate.
There you go.
But yeah, no, it was just like such a blast. Definitely, despite COVID, we were able to celebrate and enjoy not only the victory, but also just the whole week.
Well, it's really a shame that you'll never be able to, experience a Curtis Cup ever again, because you're going to be so focused on your master's program at Wake. You're probably not going to be playing a lot of golf. I mean, even though the Curtis Cup, we're going to have another one next year in June, because with COVID, with canceling, you got to kind of get the calendar back on track. But there's no way. I mean, once in a lifetime, you're never going to experience a Curtis Cup ever again, right? You're not even going to try to even potentially put yourself in. Do you see what I'm doing here? Are you picking up on
I see what you're doing. Yeah.
Here? You want me to shut up and just let you talk now?
Yeah, I was going to tell you you're really funny.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I would absolutely love to have the opportunity to play the Curtis Cup again. I'm actually talking with my coach today. I just need to, I just need to figure out like how I could potentially do it. But if I don't do it, if I don't get the opportunity, that's fine, but I'm going to try.
Yes.
And I don't know how that looks, and I'm fine with not knowing how that looks. I'm fine with, halfway into the end of the year, I'm like, actually, I don't think I can do this I don't think I can do it. And,
right.
or it's not feasible more, not that I can't do it, but it's not feasible, that's fine. But, I have that as a goal of mine, and kind of just see what happens and see where that takes me. And I'm excited to, not quite be done.
Do you, yes, and I'm just giving you a hard time. I think, especially in this unique situation obviously if you had to wait 2 years to get another chance, that just adds more time and more uncertainty. But it sounds to me that you will figure out with the people around you, you'll figure out the path to get yourself in the conversation for June at Marion. And Captain Ingram will be back for another year at the helm. And I'm guessing at Wake, your Coach Llewellyn, you probably could get a discount on range balls or something while you're there. You could probably work something out, right?
Yeah, a little more than that. They still have my locker up there.
Oh my gosh, move out already! What's wrong with you? No, I'm just kidding.
I know. I might come to team workouts at some point. Vanessa was like, Emilia, you should come tomorrow. So it's really nice. I feel honored to still feel very like a part of the team.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited to like watch them and kind of the local events that they play and follow them. But yeah, definitely still on the range, and
mm-hmm.
I kind of go at some off hours, but yeah.
True or false? Am I going to be shocked if I see like Emilia Migliaccio, volunteer assistant coach. I mean, if I am I gonna? What, I mean, how surprised am I really going to be if I see that on the Wake website? Am I going to be surprised at that?
No, probably not.
Okay, all right, just checking. All right, I'm just kind of, not that I'm channeling or like putting it out there in the universe, but I'm really not going to be surprised if I see that.
No, I mean, I kind of am doing everything right now and absolutely loving it. So yeah, if I throw in like volunteer assistant, yeah, don't be surprised.
Okay, just checking. Well, I'm going to get you out of here. I know you got a class to get to, but you are obviously writing. You're doing a lot of writing for Golf Channel. That was your summer communications major. You're also a novelist. You already have a novel published, so you have lots of experience in writing. So if you were to craft a story full of maybe some of the interesting characters with these rich personalities on the Curtis Cup team, give me, I don't want you to single out anyone specifically or feel that you need to include everyone, but give me some of the characters that you might be able to write a story about on this Curtis Cup team. Who are the rich characters besides Megagane?
Yeah, I think I loved to see kind of Rose's personality come out, and she was just laughing and having a ball, but just she's like a very graceful and very sweet and very kind, and Rachel Keene, she's very bubbly but a ton of energy, but also like so competitive, like the most competitive person out there. I loved we were playing, when we play together on the course, she will like talk about the other players and like whatever, say stuff, say like different things, and she says it like just like a little loud, where I think like they might like kind of hear 30 yards back.
Wow.
but I don't know, she just her voice projects a little loud, and I'm like kind of laughing like quietly, not quite sure if like they can hear like from afar, and my caddy's like, yeah, Rachel does not care at all.
Okay, so maybe a little gamesmanship, but she's fiery. We'll just say she's fiery. How's that?
She's fiery. She's fiery, and it's awesome to be a part of that. I would say, Rachel Heck, she comes out of nowhere with sarcasm. Like you don't expect it at all.
Love it.
And then she'll throw out this like sarcastic remark, but like, well, yeah, but like I don't really like Emilia, so like I don't want to play with her. Like just totally like out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And it's just funny because like she's hilarious, but like she's so kind and sweet that like when she makes a comment like that, I'm like, I always get thrown off because I like am not quite used to the contrast.
Right.
So yeah, I would say
this sounds like a reality show. This sounds like a reality show waiting to happen.
I think so. I mean, I feel like that's any team, right? We all have different personalities, and you could kind of make a reality show out of all of us.
Oh my gosh. This was great catching up, Millie. I know we spent a little bit of time. Actually, we had some fun at. We didn't even talk about the fun we had at the U.S. Women's Am, making fun of some of the USGA staffers when we went out with Shefty. So we didn't even get into that. That'll be next time. But I appreciate you taking the time to recap this incredible summer, whether it's your internship or the Women's Am, and obviously the Curtis Cup. It sounds like it was a dream summer. Enjoy the next chapter. See what I did there? Enjoy the next chapter of life so far. And we'll catch up again soon, I think. We got to talk some more golf.
Yeah, we definitely have, I feel like, a lot more chapters to go. But thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
And there you have it. What a great episode. Thanks so much to Emilia Migliaccio for joining me this week here at the Back of the Range. Again, follow along on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Every link that you need is in the show notes of this episode, or you can just go to the website, thebackoftherange.com. I'm off to Kiowa. See you next week here at the Back of the Range.